Yeah. And what we're gonna do, everybody, I think we're gonna start down here. So just have your cellos ready to go on stage, and we can, we'll open things up in a moment.
Oh, Scott.
Yeah.
Rogan texted me. He's like, sure. Susan, we got one of these. Isabel?
I don't have one. Let's. Take
Yeah. That's great.
All right. Are you?
So your cello is down. Michael, your cello can go up there. You have room.
Oh, really?
No, this is perfect, right here. Find a chair, oh, that goes
Ooh,
traveling.
love that one.
do you want more chairs?
No, I think we're actually gonna be fine. Would you like a chair, for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Oliver Cole. And Michael, you can just leave your cello there, and Isabel, and come out here. We're still waiting on a few other
Take your
cellos.
time.
You can let it pass later. And did everybody get, Kol Nidrei ritual? Susan, did you get one? So when you start, I can just stand right there. Make a welcome announcement. We should chat about it. It's working. Come sit for the meeting. So who are we lacking?
Arthur and Lloyd.
Arthur is coming in, he's got it. Arthur will be here, Roy will be here. We have people listening from other parts of the country.
Okay.
Could I just do a quick-
Of course. I'm not ready. Let's go. All right.
Welcome, everybody. This is Scott Kluckstall, professor of cello here at the University of South Florida, and we are really thrilled to have Cantor Deborah Cannizzaro from Congregation Shari Zedek with us here in Tampa, who is going to be explaining the significance of the Kol Nidrei singing for us, and then the second portion of this, the cellists will get to participate in a master class with her. So it's going to be a delightful next hour or so. Welcome, and if you have any questions for Cantor, you can text them to me. I believe I've left you with my cell phone number, so we'll get them to you. So welcome, and welcome, Cantor Cannizzaro. It's so great to have you here.
I have to say I have never been asked to do a master class for cellists. I'm a vocalist, and that's my training at my bachelor's and master's in music. I'm not here, unfortunately. My bachelor's is from the University of Miami. I don't think that USF had this facility when I got my bachelor's. But anyway, it's beautiful. So I love living here in Tampa. So I'm the cantor at Congregation Shari Zedek here in Tampa. We're a congregation of about 12 to 1,300 family units. And I've been a cantor now for over 15 years. I worked as a soloist before that in a congregation. So Kol Nidrei is pretty important. The Kol Nidrei, we call it the Kol Nidrei prayer. It's actually not a prayer at all. It's a legal formula. Let me give you a little bit of background about how Kol Nidrei came about. There was at one time, and we're talking probably in about the period from 500 CE to about 900 CE in the Common Era. Jews don't use AD because that means the year of our Lord, and Jews do not have a Lord, so we use Common Era and before the Common Era, BCE, as we go over the scholarly tradition of dates. So about that time, there was this tradition that on Rosh Hashanah, people would come to the rabbis, and to the rabbi of their town and say, we need to be forgiven, we want to prepare for the high holidays. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the high holy days, are a period of time, it's about a 10-day period where we become very introspective. And we're coming before God to ask forgiveness, to be cleansed, the whole idea of repenting of what we have done in the past year. In order to come before God, you needed to be cleansed of your sins. So we would do that, and right before Rosh Hashanah, the person would come before the rabbi and say, I want my vows that I've made to be annulled, and there would be two people holding Torahs and one rabbi, and they would say this special formula. And people would say, please forgive me for this vow that I made to so-and-so, or this vow. And they're vows that you take in the name of God. So in the East, it's very, very common, and still today, to hear people go, I'm going to do this, I swear to God, things like that, or I do this in this name, and God, and those types of vows that you do, vows in the temple, out of the temple, between people, when you invoke God, they become very serious. So if you did not fulfill these oaths, then you needed to be forgiven, so are cleansed for this before you could go before God and ask for forgiveness. So there was this ritual they did right before Rosh Hashanah. At some point, the rabbis, and this is true, the rabbis decided, well, let's do this instead right before Yom Kippur, because people don't always show up for Rosh Hashanah services. That hasn't changed. They don't always, not everybody shows up for Rosh Hashanah, but everybody comes to Yom Kippur, the services of Yom Kippur, so they moved it to be right before Yom Kippur. Somehow this prayer, this formula of Kol Nidrei came about, and they're not exactly sure how it came about, but they suspect suspect it had to do with this prevalence of magic during that time period, where people would they would go to seers or whatever and say, I need something to get rid of demons. I need something to protect me from this or that. And they have found artifacts in this time period of bowls, in the Babylonian bowls that had inscriptions that used the same words of the koname or the achare or any of these particular types of vows, or to be nullified or to be, forgiven or eradicated. So they think that this might be, for sure this is might, we don't actually know, might be where this particular formula came from. But over time, this formula of Kol Nidrei came about to where people would say it before Yom Kippur. Well, the rabbis did not like this. They did not like Kol Nidrei. They probably still don't like Kol Nidrei because this idea of being able to say, forgive me for all the things I've done before God for the past year, halakhically, which means according to Jewish law and the Talmud, it doesn't work. Because you can't really say this prayer and cover everything, a blanket forgiveness for everything you've done. So somewhere in around 1000, they said, well, let's do it from now until the next Yom Kippur. And the rabbi said, well, that's better, we'll do it. But it still is not, how do you say, please forgive me now for everything I'm going to do from now until next year? And the rabbi still didn't like it, but the people refused to give up this formula. They refused to give up this idea of going right before Yom Kippur and saying, please forgive me. So Kol Nidrei has been around, and it has become so important that we now name the evening service for Yom Kippur Kol Nidrei, even though it is not part of the liturgy. Because technically, Kol Nidrei is done before the service of Yom Kippur starts. So I handed out for you a little handout here, which is the entire little ritual that is done. And all of these parts were added by various authorities over the years so that it would be acceptable. First, you have the Shiva Shalmala, which is saying by the authority of the heavenly court, we are now allowed to pray with sinners. And by sinners, we mean those who have transgressed and might have been ostracized from the community, because even those who were ostracized from the community still needed and deserved to be forgiven if they come before God. So we say that, then we chant Kol Nidrei, and then there are all of these on the back, V'nislach L'kol Adat. This is all done to say we forgive the whole congregation, and we are coming before God to ask forgiveness, and then we can start the service. So, that's the brief, very brief history of Kol Nidrei. It is done 3 times. That's what we found in the Talmud, that it was done 3 times, and the cantor would chant it 3 times. The first time in traditional cantor would do it very, and let me, I have to define. In Judaism, we have 2 clergy. We've got the rabbi, teacher, and the chazan, the keeper. The chazan is a singer, usually, who does all the liturgy and chants all the liturgy, and the rabbi is the one who interprets the law and does the sermons and all of that. The chazan is the one who chants all the liturgy, so the chazan is the one who does Kol Nidrei. And usually they come up, there are many different practices, but the chazan would come up and say, and chant very quietly, Kol Nidrei, the whole text. Then, again, chant it louder. And then the 3rd time, chant it full voice and for the whole congregation, and then we could continue. This was like, the 3rd time is like you are now talking right to God, and it's all forgiveness is happening, and there are all kinds of descriptions about how this was done. So Judaism, I'm a Reform Jew. Reform is kind of a liberal branch of Judaism, which is why I am a cantor, a chazan, because the more traditional branch of Judaism does not allow women to be clergy. But in conservative, which is kind of middle of the road, and Reform, which is more liberal, we do. And in the Reform, we look for various ways to make it a little different, to find ways to do Kol Nidrei 3 times, because your average congregant doesn't want to sit there and listen to somebody chant this prayer 3 times. So when Max Bruch wrote Kol Nidrei, took the melody, right? That is the composer of the piece that you do, right? So Max, he did this, and he had this idea of he was friends with a cantor, and the cantor had given him some music from the liturgy of the various liturgy, and he loved this Kol Nidrei melody, and he took it and he created and wrote the Kol Nidrei that the cellists play. That's probably the single reason why this melody has become so important in the 20th and 21st centuries. Because before that, it wasn't something that a non-Jew would know. But because of that piece, and because it's so beautiful, and because it's played so many different ways, people love it. And now this melody has become very well known. Many of our congregations, what we do now is we have a cellist come. In our case, we have Scott come. Scott Cluxell comes and plays Kol Nidrei for us. Then I will chant it with my choir. And then the rabbi will read it aloud in English for translation, or whatever the vernacular is of the place where the congregation is. And that is how we do our 3 recitations of Kol Nidrei. Let's take a look at this. I assume you all don't read or speak Hebrew. So here I have for you, in the middle of the page here, you'll see Kol Nidrei, and it is, I have put the Hebrew, which is actually not Hebrew, it's Aramaic. And Aramaic was the spoken language, and Hebrew was kept for the prayers, kind of like Latin and the spoken Latin, and then you had the High Latin in Catholicism. But so this is mostly Aramaic, and if you translate the text, it doesn't make any sense because the tenses don't match. And this is because they went from past tense to future tense and then past tense, so we just make do. So here is the Hebrew and English letters, and then below it I've given you a translation. So this legal formula is basically saying all vows, and it lists all the different types of vows that you could have, vows made in the temple, vows made here, vows made there, and we are saying now all of these vows shall no longer be vows. Please allow them to be annulled. Let them be, renunciate them. Please, all of our promises, forgive us, wipe them out, basically, so that we can now come before you full. And that is the basic concept of Kol Nidrei. Let me see, there's one thing. So, Kol Nidrei has caused a lot of problems for Jews over the centuries, basically because, and please forgive me, I'm just going to go back to past and use from a scholarly perspective, the Christians of the time in the Middle Ages, Jews were not liked, they weren't accepted in general because Jews don't accept Jesus as their savior, so we do not acknowledge Jesus as being God. We consider Jesus to be more of a prophet. But the Middle Ages in that time period, they said, well, hold on a second. If you're saying that you're asking for forgiveness for all the sins you're going to do from now until next year, then you can't be trusted. Because if you make a vow or an oath or sign a contract, you could renege on that and it's okay. So Jews can't be trusted. And what is not understood is that the oaths and the vows that are being discussed are not between man. These are oaths and vows that a person does before God. And it's a very weird, it's a difficult concept to grasp, because if I have a vow with you, if I promise you I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I can't obtain forgiveness or I can't obtain absolution of any kind unless I go to you personally and ask forgiveness and find a way to repay that debt in some way. That's between man and man. But if I promise to God that if God saves my son, I will dedicate my life to be a cantor, and then I renege on that promise, that's a promise between me and God. And that is something that I would then have to go to God directly to ask forgiveness. And that is, you can't ask God in person. So this is something that if I were going to ask God for something, I would have to be so contrite and so willing to do something to ask for that forgiveness that would affect my life going forward. And that is the type of thing that we talk about for Kol Nidrei. We are saying, help, we know we have not done what we're supposed to do. Help us be better. And a lot of Judaism really is all about help us become better than we have been. Help us to make the world better. That's what that idea for Judaism is. But the Christians of that time period did not understand that. And they would make Jews do strange things in order to make a vow of any kind. And there are all kinds. I could go back into history and find the Jude Moreo, I think it's called, which is the Jew oath. And it was, the More Judaico, which a Jew oath was a special form of oath that would accompany ceremonies where they would make Jews do very odd things, and it's actually annotated and listed, walk across potholes or have to walk across spikes or something that would, there's some horrible things back there that I found. And this actually did not change until right after the Holocaust. This law was actually still in effect until the 20th century in a lot of European countries. So it's caused us a lot of problems. So that's why I would try to get through it to people that that's not what this is. It's a very special thing between you and God. So, with that being said, do you have any questions so far? Of any kind? Please ask any questions you'd like. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I will chant for you Kol Nidrei the way I would do it without my choir, even though I have a member of my choir here. She can't do the whole choir. And I'm going to go ahead and chant this the way I will do it, or similar to the way I'm going to do it on Friday night, which is Yom Kippur. Oh, then I'll explain that in a second. Okay. shiri velo, velo So let's talk about the melody now. This melody, obviously, we don't know what they chanted back in 500 or 800 or 1000, but we do know that this melody was notated around the time of Lewandowski. And Lewandowski, let me check my notes because my memory isn't what it used to be. So the first mention that we have of a melody is about the 12th century. And that was that description of what I told you, that at first they chanted softly, then bigger, then bigger. This was written in our Talmud, and they said this is the way it should be done. And there was this Sidur, which means prayer book, that was written or set down in written form around 900, between 900 and 1100. And that is basically the Sidur that we use. All of our prayers, a lot of them come from that prayer book. And that's where it was first described. Then we know that a cantor by the name of Chazan Erenbeer in 1765 wrote down his version of Kol Nidrei. And we do have that. Then Lewandowski in the 1800s, wait, let me see. Yes, 1871, Lewandowski published his version of Kol Nidrei. And most of the melodies that I sang come from that. Because that melody, as it was written down, then we had something to go on, and it was passed from cantor to cantor, chazan to chazan, and it has many different forms. I have at least 5 or 6 different versions in my library of how it's done, depending on whether one I did is Adler, who is a great teacher at Hebrew Union College, and an unknown version that I could not find who did it. So that is the way the version that we do at Sher Zedek. If you listen to Central Synagogue, I think they do the, I just lost it, the Binder version. Then there's another one you can just listen to, but they all have these melodies. These little melodic tropes, they're all going to be in there. So that's the melody. So let's do, now that you've seen, I was singing it as a prayer, but Rook, when he wrote his piece, used a lot of these melodies and expected, he had them in his ear, and he wanted the cello to play it the same way. And now the markings that you have, and phrasings, you'll do it that way. But when you're playing this piece, I want you to remember that this is something that has, as I've explained, long tradition. And this is something that the Jewish people have fought their rabbis to have included in their service. So when you're playing this piece, you're playing this plea to please God, forgive me for what I have done or what I may do in this next year. So that's what you want to think of when you're doing this. Okay, why don't we play? This should be amazing.
Boy, I want to make sure there's enough share. Put the cello out.
So I'm going to this side, so because of the pitch.
One more.
Oh, no. It's just more that I'm here to And the violins came in, and we have security out there as and she said, do I have to open it out like he's outside? And I happened to be there when she came in, and they're like, no, she wants to open it, and I'm like, no, she doesn't. Why don't you go inspect it inside the building, because that violin probably costs more than your house. So why don't we just respect that? And so that's sort of how I'm gonna actually sit downstairs. What do I still stand there? Okay. So why don't we do this? Since this is what we need to do. Why don't you just play the game all together, okay? And then I'll just stop. Is that okay? Is that how I do?
No, it's okay. Sometime this piano here, might be an introduction or so.
Yes, please. That would be beautiful. Thank you. Great, wow. I bet our congregation would love hearing that. All of you guys are fabulous. Okay, that opening. Kol Nidrei. Kol means all, everything, all encompassing everything. Nidrei means vows, every kind, vows, all vows. When you're doing that opening, I'd love to hear, Kol Nidrei. I mean, if I was going to do this as an alto, I mean, you want pathos through there. This is everybody's waiting to hear this from the cello player. I'm telling you, congregation doesn't know. They want to hear that pathos, the emotion come out of it. Now you start up high, right? And then you go back and do it again. Why are you doing it again? Why are you doing the same melody again? Because obviously the first time, if I were interpreting this particular version, the first time wasn't enough. I needed to dig even deeper. Oh, I forgot about that one. That was really bad. Now you even have to go deeper in to talk about it. Let's try that again. We give them a couple measures just to bring them in. Oh my God, that's exactly what I meant. Don't be afraid. I know in school, I remember when I was in school, this is what the composer wrote, right? Yes. And the composer wrote this with somebody probably in mind to play it, who would take what they wrote and interpret within the measure and within the phrase. And it doesn't have to be exact. So, G, G, na. So that phrase you just played, it doesn't have to be da, 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 da. I want to hear it to be D. Darna is again another type of oath or vow. This one too. This, I want to make sure, God, you understand that it was all vowels, but just in case you didn't get it, there's this vowel that I did, and this vowel that I did, and this vowel, and this is another one of those. So this phrase is, put a memory of something that maybe you weren't so proud of yourself. Put that in there and beg somebody to forgive you. Put that in that phrase. Do that. La, 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 la. Yeah, that part. Yes? Now it's slow. Wow, so beautiful. You guys are amazing. Beautiful. So this part that you're doing now, Joe, I'm gonna let you demonstrate this. I'm asking you to play this part. Go back to oh gosh, I don't have music in front of me. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. you do that for me. Don't be so tight tempo. I think a lot of it got slower and slower, I think, because you all listen to each other and kind of sing together, and that's why I'm going to go to just individual people. Let's do that again. Don't be afraid, especially on la da 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 da, because now you're excited. Let's try that.
Oh, you can go to that's fine.
But go back further to get into it. That's good.
That is fine.
That is fine. That's good. That's good. What I love and the reason why I asked you particularly to play is because I can see expression in your face while you're on board playing. And that's super important. One of the reasons why, so in 2020, we all remember 2020, we couldn't do high holidays in person. And I remember asking our pianist and Scott to come in and record this piece because we did it all online. And I still have that recording, I can take this, of Scott doing this with a mask because he had to stay immune from everybody else. And still, with that mask on, you could see the emotion and you could just see you could just see everything come through, not only the music itself, which is important, we want to hear it in the music, but that also happens in the face. I know when I'm singing, I can do that, but if I'm just singing, when I put everything into the emotion, it's going to come in my face. And people are still watching. And the recordings are great, but I want to see why. I want to see that person and see how much they put into their music. And that's what's important. So I want to try, that was beautiful. Thank you very much. I would love, it's personal preference, I would love it to be like more cello into dun 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 dun. There's got to be a reason to get out there. There's got to be a reason why you just all of a sudden had that. So let me see. Where's a good place to go back to?
How about, shall we, how about, you
Yes.
see what this, it starts on an A, so can we do that?
Okay, I would like another volunteer. Who else would like to try?
Sure.
Okay, I want to go back to this right before we get to that lower part at the very end. So there's a spot in there where it starts to calm down, right? It seems like it just gets quieter and calms down. And I don't think of that as calming down. I think of that as more, I have almost reached it and I'm worn out. I've been expressing myself, and now I'm worn out. And just before we get to the worn out, it comes back with that lower part. And I don't know, I think that's one of my favorite parts of this piece, is that ending part with the lower part. He does it, I'm sitting there behind him, I'm like, oh, this is so nice. And it just reaches into your soul in that lower part. So I like to get, I don't know, this, let's go back to right about C. Let's go back to C. Let's go right there, right there. Yeah. So, breath. Da 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 da. Don't be afraid to take breaths in there. They're not written, but each of these little things is like a little phrase of pleading and a prayer. So I would love to go from right from there if you can. Top of we are at measure. Oh, no measure.
It's
Top.
1, 2, the fifth bar of B.
And from the piano perspective, don't rush him at the end. Let him lead. long, and they have no idea what you're gonna do. Look, when I'm holding it long enough, I'm telling Robert, just watch me, and I'll nod my head when I'm not ready to go down. So help your accompanist out by letting them know what you're going to do, because this is your solo. Perfect! Would somebody else like to start at the same place? Go for it, and look for it.
Let's see, see,
Yeah, we can start at D, that's fine.
D, alright.
D would be good. Very nice, thank you. Keep going in that direction, keep it even further. That was really nice, it was beautiful. Would you like to? Yeah, go for it. I wanted everybody a chance to play. I remember when I was in master class, I was like, I want to sing. So I'm happy, I'd like to go get this particular spot, because it's really, really good. It's a good spot to do. Remember, you're doing that Kol Nidrei, that melody comes back. This is like the third time now we're hearing that. That's really make it, I love it for everything. This is pure schmaltz right here. It really is. D. Yes, very nice. Thank you very much. I would love, you know what I mean by breath? I want the sound to stop. I would love, so we're looking at right before E, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 measures before E, you've got la, 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 la. I want to hear that, and it has to come from you. It's not something that I want to say, take a breath there, because it doesn't work. But I want to hear the phrasing. I want to hear that phrasing in there. There's not a lot of phrasing in there. It's really written up. It's up to you guys. Make a phrase. Make me believe that each one of those figures is something that is another piece of emotion. Who would like to go next and try it? I know. Go for it, or you can do whatever. Same spot. That was gorgeous. Thank you very much. A lot of what I'm asking you to do is, are your techniques grow? You know, you draw students, right? So, but like, oh my God, I can play a cello like this. I can't do a cello. But to be able to sing at your level of cello playing when I was in college, that would be fabulous. You're all very talented. Thank you so much. And as your technique grows and continues, and as this piece becomes more part of you intrinsically, a lot of these things will happen. But all of you are well on the way to being able to make this a glorious piece. And it's gorgeous. This is like what we look forward to every year. Do we have time for one more?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're fine.
you want to try?
Yeah.
You want to go for it? I'd love to hear this. That was beautiful. Sad and lovely. Thank you. It was just gorgeous. Guys are all so talented. Thank you so much for coming. Is there any?
Do we have any time for questions? I mean, I have a question, but I'm sure, thoughts or questions?
Yes.
How much of Brooks' writing is his writing and how much is the traditional canon?
He took the melody and made it his own. Let's put it that. Most of everything, I'm going to say probably 70-30, because what I hear is I hear the pieces of melody, but the piano part is totally accompaniment, although it does have a lot of it in there. But this would be what I would be considering an interpretation of the whole thing. I mean, because remember, the melody is just the skeleton. The skeleton, what you do with it. What I sang for you was an interpretation of the owl of the skeleton of Kol Nidrei. You can hear it in various forms from different cantors, different composers, but they're always going to have la, 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 la. That is very much part of it. La, 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 la. One thing I don't hear that he did not do is the that's a very important part of the number that he didn't incorporate it into his. But there are lots, he uses these little melodic tropes. Leitmotif, which I believe was a Wagner. Wagner used leitmotifs a lot in his operas and in his music. Same idea. This same idea of taking these melodies and just weaving them in. That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. We got it. Yes.
I have a question about some of these, how do I say it? Plum, stuff like that. I have the plum. It's the decorations at the end of the phrase.
Yes.
With these notes. For example, like those, how you articulate.
That is probably a nod to what the cantor would do. Cantors tend to be it's a cantorial thing that you do to express emotion and passion, and that's probably a nod to that.
It seems like a very physical thing that you feel deeply.
Yeah, there are times in some of these prayers where there's one in particular on Kol Nidrei, on Yom Kippur. It's that type of, have you ever heard an old-fashioned cantor sing? Have you ever heard old Hazan, we call it Hazanut? You hear these like little decorations and flourishes that come right from the soul, and it's like right to the body. That's what I think it's a nod to.
With like timing.
The timing.
It just falls in place.
It falls in place, and it's very vocal. It's like all the trills and articulations for a vocalist who would do grace notes or this, not something. It's from an opera. I mean, it's an opera thing where you're.
Well, the decorated color through.
Yeah, it adds color, it adds emotion and passion. I would put it, if you're asking me to do before the note or after the beat, probably before the beat. So you end up on the beat. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I follow on this question? Are these decorations or ornamentation, are they a musical emphasis, or is it a kind of lyrical emphasis? Is it to emphasize a specific word, or just sort of a phrase?
I would say it's.
Or both?
I would say that the decorations are there to bring out the meaning of the word.
Gotcha.
That's how I would do it. So knowing the words, if you want, I can even send Scott the music that I have with the words.
I'll make sure.
I'll get that for you, because I do have I think I have them from 11. I probably could share them with my house, you guys. You should, because all of us got a print, so we don't have to feel bad about it. But yes, finding Kol Nidrei and seeing how the words march and which melodies, phrases, would probably be very helpful in your interpretation of this piece. Because then you know what you're saying.
Could I ask a question?
Yes?
So, Cantor, you were trained as an opera singer.
Yes,
Right.
possibly.
And then you went to Union?
So I was trained as an opera singer, then I did musical theater for a while and other stuff, and then I ended up going to Hebrew College to become a cantor.
That's it. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so, it's
School.
really interesting, and I tell this. Yeah. So I always say, And as I was going to my musical career, I would try and work, and doors wouldn't open for me on the classical side. It just, like, a lot of this luck, and a lot of, I just could never get that. But regardless of where I went and where I was singing, religious doors were open. I was hired in churches, I was hired in synagogues, I was hired here and there to sing, and everybody loved it. And so it was like, okay, God, this is my own personal opinion, all these doors that were being closed in my face was God's way of saying, you need to go this way. Because everybody would say, why don't you go to Cantor? Oh no, it's too Jewish. That was my response. It was too Jewish. And all this other stuff. And so finally, one day, that story that I told you about, I promised that you save my son, I'll be my cantor. I was saying that's an actual thing. My son was in the hospital with leukemia, and I'm never hit 5 years old, and I was late at night, and I was like, get him through this, and I promise I will go to the cantor school. And I did, and that's why I'm here. But that, to me, that was like my final realization of, okay, now if you want me to do this, I'll do it already. So, yeah, that's my own personal story. Everybody has a reason why they became a clergy member. That was mine.
So you've had 2 huge trainings with the classical side, and then the training to become a cantor is exhaustive.
It's a lot because you're learning Hebrew, you're learning the chazanut, which is total improvisation. You asked about the decorations. That one Kol Nidrei melody, how to improvise it and make it different, how to make it bring out the meaning of the words. And all of this is all about the words. The words come first. Even when we're chanting Torah and there are specific melodies to the Torah trope, I always tell the kids, if you don't get the melody right, it's okay. I promise lightning will not strike. It will be okay. Worry about the words, because it's Torah. It's the first 5 books of Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and this is just worry about the words. These words have been here for 3,500 years. We want to keep them for another 3,500 years, and it's because the reason they're still here is because we respect them, keep them, and make sure they're remembered. But yeah, it was all of that, and my music training was very helpful because I didn't have to worry about all of that. But it was the Judaic part that I had to really focus on. Lots of fascinating things, but I love it. It's just another way to, this is like what I do.
Are there different ways you handle your instrument to do different?
Oh yeah, there are. I was telling everybody, Rosh Hashanah Eve, my rabbi wanted it to be a contemporary service. Lots of more contemporary. If you want to like mention it, cellos and rocks or watches. He wanted a contemporary service, and just like in the church, a lot of contemporary music has come into the church. Well, a lot of it's come into synagogue as well. And that's a totally different way of singing. Chazak, let us strengthen one another. That's a totally different way of singing than Chazak, let us strengthen. Totally different. And to go back and forth between all these different pieces, Rosh Hashanah is the hardest service I sing.
Wow.
Because there's so many different styles. And some I can do well, and some I am adequate, and I can do. That's fine. That's fine. It's okay because it's good. But yeah, I know what I do.
Yeah.
Did this help?
Yes.
I love this piece. I'm going to tell you what, you'll get hired to do this every year wherever you land in your lives, if you continue as a cellist and you're working. You'll get hired in synagogue for this one piece. Once a year, you'll have a good gig.
It's the high point of my year. Lowell is another cellist here who you have a synagogue now for decades, but the service is extraordinary.
Did I convey a lot of yep, good. It's a beautiful service. Kol Nidrei is a beautiful service. It really is. And it starts on High Holiday. And it starts with Yom Kippur fast. Jews fast during Yom Kippur for 24 hours. No water, no food. If you are ill, you don't have to. If you're under 13, you don't have to. Or if there are other reasons why you cannot fast, you are free to that. That's an obligation. Yeah.
Any other questions or
And
thoughts?
by the way, beautiful job on the piano. It's funny, it's written for piano, and I have at my synagogues, 2 of them now, we've done it on organ. And the organ sound, oh my gosh, just has this whole cushion underneath the cello, it's beautiful. That's what we do at ours. We do organ sound. It's great, the piano is where you do beautiful job. Thank you very much.
Well, is there any questions here? We've
Commentary, I love commentary.
thoughts, observations? They're usually not this quiet.
Please talk.
I think they're scared.
Oh, no, please. No, no, it's just me. That's not true. No, that's okay, they come in and fight me down.
Why does everyone turn up for Yom Kippur?
The same reason everybody shows up for Christmas and Easter. That's exactly what it is. Those are our Christmas and Easters. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the 2 most important holidays. Interestingly enough, the 2 most important holidays from your average Jew's perspective. The other most important holiday is Passover, that's done in the home. So everybody shows up at homes instead. Passover is like Easter, but everything's at home. But as far as synagogue services, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is probably the one where we will have the most people.
I remember my first service at Shari Sadat, and I didn't know that it was so. And the synagogue is huge when everything is opened up, and I was thinking, there might be 100 people or so forth, and it was just packed. And I thought, I have at least 2,000 eyeballs on me right now.
Our sanctuary, when we open up the social hall on the sides, will fit about 800 people. That's how many will fit, and usually one of the Kol Nidrei we do simultaneously, we do consecutive services. So I have one at 6, then we have one at 8:30, and then the next one at 8:30 to 11:30. And then the rest of the day, that's another story. One of those services, the one of the Kol Nidrei services will be full, and the 11:30 Yom Kippur service will be full, because that's just those invitations.
It's really one of the great privileges we have as cellists. Don't you think, Lowell, playing this? It's sacred.
Yes, it's all, and it's appreciated. Thank you guys all. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Could you show us? You brought something with you.
Oh, my telly. Yes, I meant to say this. I got distracted when I was talking. Has that ever happened? So this is a telly, and this is a prayer shawl. This one happens to come from Israel, the Women of the Wall, and I ordered this in support of them. So the telly is worn on a morning service usually, when we read Torah, or any morning service, pretty much we put the telly on. But it's only put on during the service. So for Kol Nidrei, they put it on. And the reason is because in the evening service you don't wear them. But Kol Nidrei, for some reason, they put it on and leave it on the entire holiday, the entire Yom Kippur, even the evening, the morning, everything. And we think there's no real explanation as to why, but we figure it's because we want to set that day apart from all others. So the Shabbat is once a week. That's our Sunday for you guys. And for me, it's Saturday from Friday night until Saturday night. Oh, that's another one. Why do Jewish services start at night? So the day actually starts at sundown. That's when the Jewish day in Israel starts. That's when the clock changes. That's when the day. Why? Because in Genesis it says that there was evening and there was morning the first day. And the rabbi said, well, if there was evening and then morning, that must mean the day starts and ends with evening.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. So it is, we started at sundown, and because it wasn't the holiday until sundown, and the service that happens before is before sundown, which is the whole formula thing I was talking about at the beginning, they had the talit on, and then when it started, they left it on. But Shabbat happens once a week, and Shabbat, of all the holidays, is the most holy night. Shabbat, which is once a week, is the most important holiday of the year. Every week, Shabbat, because it's the seventh day God rested. All the other holidays are less than Shabbat, except Yom Kippur is the Shabbat of Shabbats. It's the most important day. So that's what, and this is not how we this goes on. And this is a small one. My rabbi has a big one, which is huge. It goes down to the ground. And in a conservative, traditional synagogue, you'll see men do this. Or they'll totally cover themselves in the talit. Reformers aren't so concerned about it. Yeah. Well, they're probably from Yom Kippur, I would assume. But yeah. And I have to match all my lessons. But yes. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you.
Did you get a picture with all of us?
I sure can.
Let's move this way.
This is a gentleman making Cantor. You can come and stand right in the middle.
Yep.
Oh, no, it's fine. You know, this is good. Okay.
Oh, you're welcome.
First of all, wave to all of our guests from afar. There we go. Okay. Don't come down, please get in. Please, please. This is beautiful. Okay. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. And one wave. Wave. There we go.
Thanks, God.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh, good. All that.
And that.
Yes. Beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
So can I make 2 quick announcements? I'm picking up for some nibbles and a drink after the concert on
Sunday.
Sunday at Deborrah's. And then another thing is Fezar's recital on Saturday